Hello, I'm Todd Rhodes with the Sustainable Lexington Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present Article 31, Building Energy Use Disclosure Bylaw, which we refer to as BEAUTY. The purpose of the article is to establish a bylaw to help property owners understand their energy performance compared to similar buildings in town. The implementation of an energy disclosure program was recommended as a first step in Lexington's 2018 Getting to Net Zero Emissions Plan. Similar programs are already established in Boston and Cambridge. Building owners in Lexington that have properties in those cities are already reporting under those programs. Also, the proposed bylaw is based on the requirements currently being followed in Boston and Cambridge, and those being considered by the Commonwealth in House Bill H 3366. This bylaw is important because large buildings have a significant impact on Lexington's CO2 emissions. Existing commercial, industrial, and municipal buildings account for about 66% of electricity and 50% of the natural gas used in Lexington's buildings, and about 40% of Lexington's CO2 emissions. Of these, about 120 buildings that are over 25,000 square feet account for about 80% of the total floor area of the town's CIM buildings, and likely account for a similar level of energy use. Ownership of these buildings is concentrated in a smaller group of building owners, so there are fewer than 100 affected building owners. The charts at the bottom of this slide illustrate the type of information to be collected and reported. The charts show information for several town buildings that are currently being tracked. On the left is a breakdown of the energy used by each building by energy source, electric or natural gas. Under the bylaw, the town would request similar annual energy use data for each of the covered buildings. The chart on the right shows the CO2 emissions associated with each building. The town would calculate emissions for each of the 120 buildings and report the results on an annual basis. As the two charts show, buildings that consume relatively large amounts of natural gas have higher CO2 emissions than buildings powered largely by electricity, like the new firehouse. As I had said, about 120 buildings referred to as reporting units would be covered by the bylaw. It focuses on buildings over 25,000 square feet or sites with 25 or more individual dwelling or commercial units. Owners of these buildings would be required to annually report electricity in kilowatt hours with the energy label, which identifies the source of the electricity, natural gas in therms, fuel oil, diesel in gallons, and propane in gallons. Beginning in 2023, the town would collect this information from the building owners for the previous year and apply standard metrics to calculate emissions intensity for each reporting unit and by building type. And we will also include water consumption in gallons from records already maintained by the town. Building owners can report the information to the town through EPA's portfolio manager, which is available at no cost to the building owner, or provide it to the town using a similar tool. This information would be published annually in a publicly available report. Owners of properties with 25 or more units on the site will be required to report the aggregate energy used for all units on the property. They are not required to report information for the individual units. There are two options for collecting this information. First, the building owner could request the information from the utilities. Both Eversource and National Grid have websites specifically designed to support reporting to disclosure programs. They allow building owners to enter the address of each unit on its property so that the data can be aggregated for all units on the property and sent to the owner, who can then send it to the town. Alternatively, the owner may request the information from each tenant, consolidate all the information themselves, and provide the aggregated information to the town. To implement this program, we have considered two approaches. The outsource option was originally recommended by the sustainability director and is similar to the approach used by Cambridge. The outsourced firm would manage communications with building owners, compile the data, and create the initial draft of the annual report for review and approval by town staff. The article includes a request for $70,000 to cover the cost of this option through at least the first year. Alternatively, with less than 100 building owners to contact, the work could be completed internally. We have met with the Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnership, a nonprofit located on Hartwell Avenue, who has offered free initial use of their BEAM benchmarking tool, which has been developed through a DOE grant. The tool would help to track and trend the provided data and manage outreach with building owners. We estimate that the work to manage this program could be performed by temporary staff over a few weeks each year under the direction of the Sustainability and Resilience Officer. Over the past few months, we have reached out to building owners who would be affected by this bylaw. The overall view is that providing the limited information being requested on an annual basis would not be burdensome to building owners. Larger owners see the objective of this bylaw as being aligned with the values of their tenants and investors. The feedback also identified that owners of relatively smaller buildings would likely need support when reporting the required information, particularly in the first few years. In conclusion, the disclosure program was the first step recommended in Lexington's 2018 Getting to Net Zero Emissions Plan. Participating in benchmarking programs helps save energy. The EPA estimates that benchmarking participants save an average of 2.4% per year. Minimal information would be requested from building owners. The cost and staff time to implement the program is estimated to be low. The program is aligned with efforts of local communities and proposed state programs. And most importantly, benchmarking information will help building owners understand their emissions compared to other buildings in town and help move us toward meeting Lexington's emissions goals. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present Article 31. I'm happy to discuss any questions.